to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Monday, June 1st.
What?
The Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
But we do shows on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, we're doing an early release.
I don't know why Scooby-Doo showed up.
Yeah, I don't know what the voice is, man. I was just trying to ignore it. Jason's here. Mike is here.
And the UDK is here. That's the main thing.
And we decided we do record the Tuesday show on Mondays, but we decided we'd record early and release it right away. Got all this excitement and anticipation for the UDK, which is now available. So you can go check it out. And I know that we get to this time of year and there's so much excitement and people are in the app and on the website and you can check it out, ultimatedraftkit.com. But then they get in there and they're like, what do I do? What's the first thing I utilize within the UDK is one of the most frequent questions that we actually get. So we'll do that as a quick question. But I am super excited for people to get in there. Couple of updates for you. We got, everything is live. Sleepers, breakouts, bust values, all of our player profile videos, 100 of them. But also, 130,000 words of original content.
See, you shouldn't say that because to me that's a deterrent. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, what? 130,000? I ain't got time for that.
And not just that.
God. Oh, my God.
Breaking news.
No.
Moments into the show.
No, that's not possible.
That's what UDK Day is all about. The Browns are finalizing
That's not possible.
a trade of Myles Garrett to the Rams.
No.
What?
No.
To the Rams.
Shut it down.
Oh, get wrecked, NFL. Oh,
It's
man.
a trade for Jared Verse, a first-rounder, and more.
What?
Okay, well, at least Jared Verse is gone.
Oh, no.
Well, no, but I'm saying if you add Garrett,
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't lose something.
This is a great trade for Cleveland.
Holy.
yes, it really
Lord.
is.
Because
They are.
Cleveland is not there yet.
I think it's a good trade for all parties.
But holy crap, I wanted to talk about the UDK. And now we get breaking news, and we may have more on this show because the A.J. Brown news is right around the corner. But Myles Garrett, I saw it this morning. The smoke started to rise from behind the mountains, and it was Eagles.
This is very Tyreek Hill, where it was like, oh, there might be a trade. And he's traded immediately.
This is a monster trade.
Oh, my God.
A monster trade.
Someone.
They hate their first-rounders in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And you know what? This is how I do fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I want the known commodity. You get the best defensive player that we've seen in a long time.
They were
But
very
the Rams
upset that the Seahawks won the Super Bowl.
The best we've seen since maybe Aaron Donald.
right.
Son of a gun, he's going to the Rams?
Oh, this is great news for
And
the bottom dwellers of the NFC West.
I thought that the Eagles might be the ones to get him.
They couldn't get him and AJ. They're trading.
They're trading
get the
AJ
Patriots. Yeah, maybe.
Well, there was talk that this A.J. Brown trade, which has not, as of this recording, materialized, but it seems right now inevitable. The situation for the Eagles, they talked about like a Ricky Williams-esque trade to get Myles Garrett. But he's a Ram now, as of right now. So holy moly. You will not find a player profile for Myles Garrett in the UDK.
I mean, I look, Verse
is a great player.
Great player. He's not Myles Garrett, so this is at least somewhat of an upgrade for all those matchups against the Cleveland Browns. And Joe Burrow is
for sure
doing like okay, I'll take that.
All the KC Concepcion, one of the downsides of the Cleveland offense is their defense is so good. They might not need to do much. This is helpful, but it makes sense for Cleveland. Jared Verse is a very good player. He's much younger, and then you add a first. This is a team that's building for the future, not for right now. And Myles Garrett gets to chase a ring, which he didn't even want originally to sign with the Browns because he didn't feel like he could win there. And then they offered him so much money. He's like, okay, all right, I'll lose.
Winning's overrated.
You paid enough. But, I think this works for all parties, and it's great for our Arizona Cardinals because we're looking for that number one pick.
Oh, my gosh.
Myles Garrett will break several of our quarterbacks.
Wow. Unbelievable trade. There you go. Kicking it off. June 1st is here. There you go. Stole the show. Myles Garrett stole the show from the Ultimate Draft Kit release. You can go check that out, ultimatedraftkit.com right now. The quick question was from Andrew in Reno. He says, after about 2.5 years of listening to the pod, he finally decided to check out the UDK. What are some of the first things I can check out when everything goes live on June 1st? Like I said, this is one of the biggest questions we get. It's like you get paralyzed by how many different resources you have. Do you guys have a good answer for Andrew?
I mean, for me, it changes during different times of the year. The first thing that I would take a look at if it was me is the player profile videos. I'd go to the videos and just watch them all. It's basically like getting more of the podcast individual on a player. All three of us talk about a single player at a time for 4 to 6 minutes, and we're giving good information, and it really helps you remember who they are, what they did, what their outlook is, their range of outcomes. And you've got time now. Like if this is late August and you're prepping for your drafts, I'm marking players and I'm highlighting who I want to make sure I don't forget and using some of the other tools. Right now, it's more like research and entertainment and enjoyment and knowledge. And so I would start with the player profile videos personally.
One of the things to remind you of is, the mobile app, the web, you can mark players. So you can favorite players. You can set aside players that you want to pay attention to in your upcoming draft. It's a way to kind of keep a running list of the things you're paying attention to. One tool I wanted to remind people about is the Value Scout tool, which is part of the UDK, which actually takes a look at our consensus rankings and compares it to the average draft position that is currently in place and finds some different, players we believe in much more than ADP, less than ADP. It's a clear way to take a look at that, Mike.
I would go that we have if you're on the web, you can go to myudk.com. That'll give you a shortcut right to your UDK. We have there's a projections area. Inside of that has Mike's 2026 projections.
Okay.
That's where I would start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mike's been known for perfect projections for years now.
Champ, can't hear you.
Okay. And I choose not to hear you. Let's get into some news.
News and notes from around the league.
One piece of
super duper champ.
I was going to say one piece of news is that it's just as painful today as it was the day you won both titles.
No,
I really need to get one.
Feels good, man. Feels good.
Well, we talked all through the insane Myles Garrett news, which I'm sure more and more details of that trade will be breaking over the next 24 hours. But here we are, June 1st. Jeremy Fowler reporting that the Patriots remain confident they'll acquire A.J. Brown. A bunch of reporters talking about that. The reason why it's taken so long is because the dead cap for A.J. Brown before June 1st was $43 million. It's $16 million after June 1st. And so pretty big deal to wait. The talk is a first-round pick from New England, which I don't know, man. That's a tough one for me.
I've seen a first. I've seen a 28 first. I've seen a second and a fourth. We don't know yet. I'm guessing by the time this is released shortly after the deal is made, everyone knows what it is, and A.J. Brown is a Patriot, and then we'll talk about the details of what that means for Davante Smith, Mekhi Lemon.
No, I'll talk about him right now because I think this trade's going to happen. I think, one, Davante Smith is a certifiable one. I think he can produce like a one in that offense. Every time that A.J. Brown's been off the field, he's been able to be a one. And, these next up options for them, Dallas Goedert's still under contract, so I'd love to be, all over Eli Stowers as a rookie, but I can't do it yet. Mekhi Lemon, super talented player. Passing volume they're one of the lowest passing volume teams in the league statistically. So it's not that I don't like Mekhi Lemon. It's just that I'm a little nervous about what the distribution will be like. I want to know that he's going to be the guaranteed second option.
Do we have that
I don't know if I feel that way.
Do we have that new snake graphic? Did that come in?
Oh.
Not yet. He's doing it tonight.
I'll bet.
Our team's letting us down.
Hey, Brian, thanks for nothing.
Yeah. So we were going to give you a really cool graphic there. We can't, so the show is inferior because of that.
Oh, my gosh.
But on the other side, A.J. Brown is still playing at a level where he should dominate in New England.
He should.
Drake May is my number 2 overall fantasy quarterback. He's a 4,000-plus yard passer. and Stephon Diggs and all those targets are gone, I mean, it's going to be 130 plus targets easy for AJ Brown.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he
Probably
will,
a lot more than that.
He's coming here as the alpha. They're going to trade enough draft capital, probably give him some money on the contract, and they need him. I mean, they really do. I know they went all the way to the Super Bowl, and so you could be like, well, do they really need him? Yeah, they do. They don't have a stud alpha one. Sorry, Mike, Romeo Doubs is not quite there. But no, and like AJ Brown will demand them. He is. I mean, that's his issue with Philly is he wasn't getting the ball enough. And so whether that's good for the Patriots, I don't know. It's good for fantasy. It's good for AJ Brown. I think AJ Brown goes over to the Patriots and dominates for fantasy this year. He's older. If you're in a dynasty league and you wanted to take advantage of this news and trade AJ Brown right now because he's going to be playing at 29 years old, try to get a haul, get a young prospect, a wide receiver plus a first, 27 first and a young wide receiver, I'm fine making that move. But if you're a contender, I think you're going to have 2 years of top 12 fantasy points from AJ Brown left.
Last year, Philadelphia was the 24th ranked offense, 23rd ranked passing offense. New England was the 5th ranked offense, the 4th ranked passing offense. 4,459 passing yards for New England, 3,400 passing yards for Philadelphia last year. It's a huge upgrade for AJ Brown in that offense. If it happens, would I give up a first if I was New England?
I would not.
I would not. No, I think that's too much for the time period. If AJ Brown was 27, of course. He already got traded for a first. Philly did it right.
Yeah, the numbers on players like this at this age being traded for a 1 and then having long-term impact on the team, the numbers are very bad. But you're going for it. You feel like no one else is probably as available as AJ Brown. But you better win.
A couple other bits of news. Jeremy Fowler
It's funny because sorry, it's like Myles Garrett's older than AJ Brown.
Right.
It's like trading a first and Jared Verse. I know right now he is more dominant at his position than AJ Brown is at his position, but it is funny to think like he's near the end, and you're saying if you get 2 years of dominance, totally worth a first and Jared Verse. Great move, Rams, but the Patriots are like maybe not worth a first. I think it probably is.
One of them is a superhero. Jason.
Yeah, one of them is
one of them's AJ Brown.
One is playing peak. I don't think AJ Brown's playing peak AJ Brown right now.
I
think Myles Garrett's playing peak Myles Garrett.
I think Myles Garrett is
a weird way to put
it. He's going to be okay for a while.
One is a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Is that what you said, Matt?
Oh,
yeah.
yes. Easy.
Jeremy Fowler also talking about Deshaun Watson, quote, has a leg up on the competition for the starting role. But, I mean, I don't know.
There's no good news.
We're gonna go back and forth for the next couple months. We're gonna hear great reports about Shador. We're gonna hear great reports about Watson. Just we have to ignore it until a decision is made.
The great news for everyone is it doesn't matter. If it's Watson, okay. If it's Sanders, okay. I mean, I'm not going into my Browns targets. And I'm like, oh baby,
no,
Deshaun Watson is back.
Yeah, no, we hope we get better quarterback play from whoever, but. The Giants signed Odell Beckham Jr. and Braxton Berrios.
Don't do it.
Mediocre signing of the week.
Eat it.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
I mean,
why you gotta do that to him?
OBJ has been mediocre for so long. But Malik Neighbors, we watched him run around the bases at a softball game.
Did we?
You called that running?
We saw him
limp around the bases.
It was like a man who'd just been shot.
He was not moving well. Cam
Not
Skadden
good.
did hit a backflip.
He looked much better.
The Cam Skadden news from this weekend was a backflip and a $50,000 grill.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes.
Yeah, see, he did some work on the teeth.
On the teeth.
And then
I literally thought you were talking like he had this backyard barbecue.
No,
it's unbelievable.
No, not a grill out.
Okay,
no,
so he
his teeth.
iced his teeth. Got
his teeth.
And then someone tried to take Ramondre Stevenson out.
Yeah, that was
that clip.
That was a comedian.
Oh, he was
slid into second base.
Matt Rife.
Well, be funnier and get Ramondre out of my life.
Oh my gosh, Mike!
I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Alvin Kamara updates? Do we have Alvin Kamara updates? The update is that there's no timetable to figuring out the Alvin Kamara situation.
Underhill was reporting that there's rumors that he still could get cut to save cap space. It's a really unique situation. His his contract is pretty wild. It's TBD. There is still
colors of ink.
There is still the chance he gets cut. That's basically the
problem.
the news.
Is Alvin Kamara is a saint forever. He is a hero for the football team, and he is no longer worth the money. And you when you have players like this, you come to a crossroads. You're like, what's worse? Like just carrying him on the team or taking the PR that we have gotten rid of people's favorite.
I feel like they're
player?
already heading down that road.
Yeah.
I think that's where they're headed
when you
too,
sign
but it's hard.
Travis Etienne Jr., it's saying we've moved on, and honestly, it's brutal. It's the unfun part of business, but you just go back to the run of the Patriots. Bill Belichick did not care what you have done for him in the past. It was like, we're just going to make the best decision, and if you're done, I'm moving on from you. I don't care. My job is to make this football team the best this year, every year, and Alvin Kamara does not make the Saints better. Just doesn't.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a break, and then today's episode, I didn't even mention it yet, is a fun one. It's the Explain Yourself episode where we will each have a chance to defend a ranking that is very different from the other two. All right. Before we jump into Explain Yourself, any other hot trades, Al, going through? Anything? We got anything on A.J. Brown?
I'll keep you posted if we see anything, but nothing yet.
All right. You never know. A little early release, and we get surprised. I'm glad it broke while we were doing the show. Worked out. It just reminded me of the time that you live on the show.
Cortland Sutton. Yes. Oh, that
one
was
time
good.
Jason was like, what, did you say? Like,
I
he's not
basically
getting
said
a
there's
contract?
no way he gets a contract. And then the second that I finished, I was do Cortland Sutton signs monster contract.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It was pretty great.
Let's do it.
I'm quite well, thank you. No. Clearly you are not. No rational person would do as you have done. Explain yourself.
Okay, we just did all of our projections. We've got our 2026 UDK projections into the app, and there's differences of opinion.
Yeah.
There's the right opinion, some of mine, and then there's your guys' opinion.
Well, let's talk about one of yours, Andrew Holloway. There is a player you have at wide receiver 17. Mike and I have near the 30s. And this is
near the 40s.
This is a player, sure. This is a player who he's played 4 years in the NFL and has never had 50 receptions. Last year, he had over 23 yards per reception and barely squeaked in as a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. We looked up this stat, wide receivers who have not hit 50 receptions through the first 4 years to go up to hit, say, 70 receptions, a bet you and I made.
Yeah.
Only one player has ever done it in the history of the NFL. That is Mike Williams, Big Mike, who was drafted as a top 10 pick, had multiple times with 9 or more touchdowns, and still only hit wide receiver 17 or better once in his career. You have Alec Pierce as your wide receiver 17. Andy, explain yourself.
It was a fun year last year for Alec Pierce. I mean, certainly fun for him. This is a player that, basically capitalized on the opportunity, and that turned into a 4-year, $115 million contract, 47 for 1,006 for Alec Pierce to finish as the wide receiver 23. He did miss 2 games due to a concussion. Sometimes we do this show and we get this thing set up, and, I have my ranking the way it is, and I start to dig into it, and I really want to dig in deep, and I want to be like, yes, I believe what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
I'd
what happened. And that's what happened. That's what happened here. I'm all the more convicted that the community at large says Alec Pierce far, far too low. Look, I know all the numbers around it, and you highlighted that it's rare for a player to go through, the first 4 years, and then the reception totals go up, and that hasn't been like Alec Pierce's recipe for success in the NFL is the big play. He has had 6+ touchdowns and 20+ yards per catch in back-to-back seasons. His average depth of target, 19 yards down the field.
That's spicy.
This one was crazy. 87% of his receptions were first downs. 87%. That's number one in the league with more than 75 targets. This is something you might not know about Alec Pierce as well, but he was tied for number one with the lowest drop rate in the NFL last year, 1.2%, lowest in the league, over 75 targets. But the case for Alec Pierce, look, there was a time, and it's not perfect apples to apples, but there was a time that we saw James Cook have high efficiency performance numbers in Buffalo and get paid like a true bona fide number one running back. We're all like, is he that? And then he went out and he basically delivered on what the team's investment was. This was a monstrous contract that Indianapolis chose to give to a guy with under 50 catches on the season. But I watched almost every single one of the connections between him and Daniel Jones. I had him on my fantasy team last year, and this is a player that's been great at the NFL level for a long period of time. Why will 2026 be different? Number one, the setup for Alec Pierce, dramatically better. Michael Pittman, he's gone. Yeah. He leaves behind 80 catches, 784 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Will there be other beneficiaries of his departure? Of course. But with him traded away and the team investing, I mean, this was not just like, we want to keep you around. This is a paying you to be one of the highest paid receivers in the game of football contract, $115 million. They paid him like a true number one, not just a deep threat, like one of the top receivers. I think there's a chance I'm not bullish enough with my projections of Alec Pierce. I think that there's a chance that, he had 1,000 yards on 84 targets. That's a number that most top-tier receivers will take 120, 130, 150 to get to 1,000 yards. He missed 2 games, by the way. I mean, his numbers are a little bit – he's a perfect candidate for that. Like, you played well, but you missed a couple games, so your fantasy finish was a little bit lower. Like, that just makes you a sneaky candidate to begin with. He doesn't have to become a 120-catch guy to dominate for fantasy. He needs to add 2 to 3 short to intermediate targets per game, which are all being abandoned by Michael Pittman. And so to me, the differences in our rankings, I'm looking at this. You guys have targets at about 90, 94, 16% target share. I've got him at 105, 20% target share, 7 touchdowns. Nothing about my projection is out of bounds. He can grow into a 20 to 21% target share.
He just has to change the player he's been for the first 4 years of his career. Would you agree with that?
I would say that they have to utilize him in more ways than they've used him in the first 4 years.
Not just being because he has basically spent his entire career just being a deep threat.
That is true, although that's the stats in whole, like you summarize his career. But when you go watch the games one by one, you also see him getting targets where, look, your yards per catch number is a reflection not just of air yards. There were in routes. There were slant routes. There were plays that they were turning to him for first downs where he caught the ball and he ran with it. They weren't all isolated, even though the averages were there, and that's what he's been as a majority. What I saw in film was a player able to prove that he could do other things. And to me, the numbers say that everybody else believes that. If you only believed he's a deep threat, you do not pay him this money, ever. Yeah. You just can't do it. And so to me, he is like, I asked these guys before, I'm like, where is he actually sitting in terms of ADP? And it's wide receiver 40.
Yeah, he's in the 8th round.
For a player.
That doesn't cost you anything. He already I don't mind that at all.
No. I mean, look, wide receiver 40 is outrageous to me. The efficiency numbers were probably outrageous last year, but they're pretty close to what you could do. His yards per catch is going to come down. His targets are going to go up. He's going to score 6 to 7 times, if not more, in this offense. And he's going to outpace the wide receiver 40. I just feel like that's a guarantee when you take the season that he had, the money he was paid, the departure of Pittman. The only thing that can really detour this in a significant way is Daniel Jones not being himself.
Yes.
If Daniel Jones is not there, you got a problem with Tyler Warren. You got a problem with Josh Downs. And guess what? Jonathan Taylor, you got a problem too, because this offense is not going to function without Daniel Jones. That's where I'm at with Alec Pierce. I feel like he's a low investment, capital-wise, high reward with upside to play into the contract.
I don't have my projection for Alec Pierce statted like you do. I really don't. I think he's going to continue to play the role that he has played so well. He's so good at stretching the field, opening things up, getting deep passes. So I think they'll keep him there. However, when you are in the 8th round, the back of the 8th, he's like on the 8-9 turn right now in ADP. The wide receiver 40, it costs you nothing. And there is clearly an avenue and a money and an investment path towards he's their alpha 1. That's maybe what they want to do.
That's what I think he'll be.
I have zero problem. Like, I love trying to dunk on you here and be like, you're so stupid.
But
because
the
that's
draft
fun.
cost protects
but the draft cost is like, I will be taking a lot of Alec Pierce if he stays that low in drafts.
Mediocre signing of the week.
Juju Smith-Schuster has been added to the Giants roster as well.
Giants,
man.
what are you doing, baby?
Beckham. I mean, this is now the red flags can fire off into the sky around Malik Neighbors.
I'll tell you what, man. Antonio Brown is somewhere like he is doing the Michael Keaton Batman gift
Juju.
right now.
OBJ and Mooney.
He is.
Juju, OBJ, and Mooney.
This is not.
I mean, that's not going to be the roster come start of the season.
Look, Malachi Fields doesn't have to compete with much.
Oh my god.
Darius Slayton is there.
This is the vibes. The vibes are bad. But so back
go ahead and
to
tell
Alec Pierce.
What do you think about Alec Pierce?
I just while you were talking, I went in. I bumped him up a little bit.
Oh, that's the highest compliment you can pay me.
It's like
I'm moving him down.
to affect our consensus rankings.
He's a difficult player because you look just based off of career. Projecting when huge jumps are going to happen, it can be difficult, especially when a player is this established. But we're in weird territory of like historically all the comps, the Mike Williams stat. Yeah, all of that exists, but also he just got that contract. So it's and NFL teams screw up contracts.
You want to know who had 33 and 37 receptions his first 2 years in the NFL? It's not 3 years, but it's 2.
What about 4 years?
Nico Collins. Nico Collins didn't do anything.
Oh, I like that counterpoint.
I mean, there are players. Robert Woods is another one where you just kind of you're hiding in plain sight in the offensive system. I don't know. I've never seen a greater endorsement of a true wide receiver one than what they did this offseason. They shipped off the guy that was supposed to be their one and then paid him $115 million.
I think the only problem with that is that when they shipped off Pittman, I know that they paid Pierce, and so their actions definitely said this is a giant part of our team. But the GM and the head coach, they were just talking so much about Josh Downs and how he's the one that's going to step up. He's going to earn more targets. And, of course, you got Tyler Warren there, who I still think that's their number one receiving option this year.
It's just $84 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
To give a player that and then give him another 17% target share or so.
I will say this.
Would be a criminal misuse of your resources.
I believe Kyle – I'm pretty sure this is right. He was an unrestricted free agent, right? He was like the bell of the ball in the free agent market.
Yes, he was.
So he's going to get a big contract.
Right.
He's going to. If you look at the Colts, who just traded the future.
Why is he going to get a big contract?
Because there were no wide receivers on the market.
That's why.
The free agent market for wide receivers was just garbage. It was,
Darnell Mooney's a deep threat. He didn't get $115 million.
But my point is, you couldn't lose this player. If you're the Colts and you already traded Pittman, you can't lose Alec Pierce. So I do think
I don't
there's
believe
some
that was
of
the order it happened.
Yeah, it was
the opposite
they signed
order
him and
of
then
that.
they traded him.
They paid before they traded Pittman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to lean into the contract. I mean, that's
the highest paid free agent in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, that'll affect things.
That wide receiver?
And that's what you got to lean on, honestly, is the fact that they will change things. They will get that target share up. He seems like a player that should thrive. If you can utilize him properly, I think he can have a higher target share and be a big piece of the offense.
All right. That's it for me and Alec Pierce, Mike. I think you get to set Jason up here.
All right. Jason Moore over here. Dum-dum.
Oh, I love this.
Gosh.
I love this.
You're the perfect guy to set this up.
Absolute dum-dum because Jason.
What a cool setup.
Well, because, look, Jason's over here. He's just like at any moment Kevin White. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Not Kevin White. He's like
no.
Michael Floyd. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'll get it right. Corey Davis. Oh, just at any moment, Rome Odunze, we're the top 10 pick. Cool. Rome Odunze is already being destroyed by his depth chart. Colston
Kevin
Loveland,
White,
Luther
Corey
Burden.
Davis.
I mean,
Those are literally the only in the history of what we've done. Those are the only people he can come up with who are drafted that high who weren't great for fantasy. So
Darius Hayward-Bay, Davante Parker,
Laquan Treadwell.
Davante Parker? Yes, he was.
No, you just said Darius Hayward-Bay.
He was a top 10 pick.
Was he really?
Yeah, brother.
Oh, my God.
You should pick up a history book because NFL players bust all the time in the first round. I'm just saying, there's already better players on this team right now. The coach, Ben Johnson, has already said, I am buying Luther Burden stock right now. Last year, Rome Odunze ran 120 routes with Luther Burden on the field. In those routes, Rome Odunze was putting up a spectacular 0.81 yards per route run. And if you want context for that, that's what Tyler Lockett was putting up on the Raiders. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, before you go and check, Tyler Lockett was in fact on the Raiders last year for part of the season, outproducing Rome Odunze. Adam Thielen on the Steelers, outproducing
That
Rome
was the
Odunze.
one I forgot. I was like, he was on the Steelers.
Yeah, he was. You don't have to look.
Yeah.
He was there, putting up more production than Rome Odunze on a per route basis. Jason, explain yourself.
That was quite the introduction.
This is so easy to explain. First of all, the yards per route run when they were on the field together, the beginning of the year, Luther Burden didn't play that much. It was towards the end of the year when Luther Burden got on the field more because he was a rookie. That makes sense. It was also during the end of the year that Rome Odunze was injured. He was very injured. He literally didn't play the last 5 weeks of the season after trying to tough it out. I went back week by week by week, and I looked at the injury report, and I watched the film, and I remember having him. Let me remind people, now, yes, you can talk about the busts at the top 10 drafted in the NFL, but there are also really good players drafted in the top 10 at wide receiver for a reason.
We never really laid out what you're explaining, just in the sense that Jason has him at 19.
I have
Mike has him at 30.
Sorry.
Mike has him at 31. You do have to explain what you're explaining.
Yeah, I'm explaining why I have Rome
You have him 10
Odunze
spots ahead of Mike.
10 spots ahead of Mike, 10 spots ahead of ADP. Right now, he's being drafted as the wide receiver 30 in the 7th round. Luther Burden is being drafted as the wide receiver 17 in the 4th round. So you're spinning up a lot to know that Burden is better. But I want to remind people, and especially you, Mike, what happened last year. Because when Burden started the season not involved and Rome was healthy,
Right.
Rome was the wide receiver 3 through the first month of the season, and it wasn't all touchdowns. We're talking 153 target pace. He was awesome. He got injured after week 8, so half the season is over. During that time, he was already on pace for 136 targets, 1,148 yards, 12 touchdowns. He was really awesome. How awesome? Because, busts is what you're throwing out, that he's not good.
Yeah.
Except he was the wide receiver 7 in points per game through the first half of the year. That's not a bust. That's a top 10 drafted pick who was alpha man, who was doing everything for fantasy you wanted. And then he got injured. What happened after that? Well, he never had a full practice week the rest of the season, including once he came back into the playoffs. He was resting every Wednesday, resting every Thursday, barely practicing on Friday, going out there and playing like trash. I mean, after he was injured, 38% catch rate. He was on pace for 639 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also didn't play as many snaps. He was usually out there for 93% of the snaps when he was healthy, and then all of a sudden they're trying to monitor him, trying to relax this heel foot injury, and he's playing 70% of the snaps. Yeah, he wasn't that good because he was injured. Now, if he's healthy, if you're telling me I have to take a bet on whether Rome Odunze, who they did spend the number 9 pick in the draft for, and for a reason. Everybody believed that this was a guy who was a top 10 NFL draft pick. It wasn't like they reached. It wasn't a shock in the draft where we're like,
correct.
Oh my God. Like Darius Hayward-Bay, that was like, oh, he's the fast speedster guy that got overdrafted. Rome was
John Ross.
Exactly. Rome was expected to be a great wide receiver. My Felix score that, I've talked about a lot and that has been so far looking really good for judging prospects, has Rome as a
part of the UDK, by the way.
Part of the UDK, now it's in there, has Rome as a 90th percentile prospect. He's not a bad prospect. He's not a bust player. And what he did in his sophomore year was dominate for fantasy until he injured his foot. And then he sucked. And then you get excited about other people. If you're telling me in the 7th round I get to take a guy who's being drafted at wide receiver 30, who has the ability to come out and truly dominate, I know Rome's going to be on the field. 2 wide receiver sets, he's going to be on the field. He is their alpha 1. Now, I'm not saying anything against Luther Burden that he's not good. I love the film. He moves different. He's great. He is not as good a complete wide receiver as Rome right now. They're still talking about how, like in that comment, that I'm buying stock. That's great. Except if you listen to the whole thing, he's talking about how he's really worked on his route tree, and we're starting to see some routes that we can add to it. That's great, but he's got to do that. They don't talk about that with Rome because he has a complete route tree.
Now, first of all, a few comments.
That's really assuming a lot.
One comment. If you started the year with Rome and Ibuka last year,
Yeah.
they're very similar. There was a major injury to Ibuka that moved him around the field, and the Evans injury, and then the Odunze injury gets underplayed. 2, I am pretty sure Mike only is allowing himself like 10 units of love for the Bears, and he has to move them from somebody.
That is true.
He has to move them from Odunze to Burden. His amount of love of Burden is so high, there's not enough room for anybody else.
And the truth
And
is,
Loveland.
with all 3 of the Bears prospects, you
Mr.
have to choose. You just have to. Here's what I promise can't happen. Loveland can't be the wide receiver or the tight end 3, while Burden is the wide receiver 8 and Rome is the wide receiver 12. Like, there's just not enough for all 3 to hit.
Unless Caleb is the quarterback 1.
Right. So you are taking a bet. Right now, most people are betting on Luther Burden. I am betting on Rome. I genuinely
ADP says that they are.
Yes, that's what I mean. I genuinely believe that at the end of the year, I am so confident that Rome will have far more targets, far more touchdowns. On a per
You guys should bet that.
touch base. Sure, I will happily bet just season finish Rome versus Burden.
Fantasy finish?
Fantasy
Oh,
finish.
yeah, I'll take Luther.
Beautiful.
Yeah, put it on the board. Bet it is. There it is.
Water bet.
Because, I mean, you said a lot of words, but all I heard was Rome Odunze is soft. Soft.
Because he hurt his foot?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
soft. Can't play. Can't play through injury.
His foot was a burden to him.
Hey-oh,
Nice.
got him.
Can I just take Loveland out of this deal?
Oh, no. I
Look,
think
All 3
we're
of
all
us are
three.
in on
I'm in
Loveland.
on Rome. I'm more in on Rome with Jason because of the draft pricing, because I believe the same things. I believe that Rome is a true alpha. You didn't even bring up the fact that, they got rid of another one of their top tier receivers, right? DJ Moore's now a member of the Bills, and by the way, struggling with the playbook over there.
Yeah, I heard that. I'm not out on Rome.
No, you can't come back. You're not allowed in. You're out. I locked the door, Mike.
Okay, that's fine.
Deadbolt.
He's like, whatever,
hatched.
that's fine. I'm out on Rome.
Yeah, no,
He's like, no, that's cool if that's the
I was
deal.
going to say, the ADP of Rome, I don't think that makes sense either. Look, I'm
the
on
disparity's too big.
I don't think the ADP of either of those guys makes sense. Like, I'm excited for Burden, but
Burden does, because this is what people do when
spending
they
a 4th-round pick on the hope and chance,
Well,
that feels hopium.
The hopium is, I can tell, I'll speak for Mike. Amon-Ra.
Yes.
It's the Amon-Ra
Yes.
argument. It's the
That
this
is-
dude's going to function in that role in this offense and be that good in this
Yeah.
offense for years to come. That's wide receiver 3
I
numbers.
think just because Ben Johnson had Amon-Ra and comes over, people are saying Amon-Ra. It's not the same type of player to me. This is more of a Percy Harvin, like get the ball in his hands and screens and just let him.
Harvin.
Just trying to he's awesome with the ball in his hands. He is awesome, but Amon-Ra is awesome in routes and he's just always in the right spot at the right time. He's a tactician.
I remember us having these conversations. Is Amon-Ra actually good? Yes.
This will be a
And
fun
Luther
one.
Burden, actually good.
This will be a fun one.
Rome, maybe.
We'll take a break, and then we'll see what Mike can do as we enter the geriatric portion of this show.
Yes.
And there it is, the geriatric portion of the show.
Producer's Alley.
Just
No,
Josh.
Josh, it's you.
Yeah, don't you?
Josh, it's you.
Just out of nowhere. All right. Mike's player that we're talking about today is Davante Adams, all 33.4 years old. Davante Adams. I've got him at 32. I think that's probably a little bit too low after we did his player
Because
profile
he is
video.
33, yes.
Jason
Thank you,
has him at 27.
Yeah.
You have aged him too low.
Mike has him ranked at number 17.
Yeah.
This is the final year of his contract in Los Angeles. Out of all of the top 24 fantasy seasons on a point-per-game basis since 2010, only 5.5% have been achieved by receivers who are 33 years or older. So the biggest challenge here for Davante Adams is father time.
He's old. That's for sure.
And he was also just ridiculously efficient last year around the goal line. Now, when we started talking through this team, look, I think the team was willing to move on from Davante Adams this offseason.
Seemed like it.
It seems like they were willing to invest in a wide receiver, but they chose Ty Simpson over Mekhi Lemon. So here we are. We end up with the Davante Adams default. We'll call it that. But, Mike, you have him the highest among the three of us, so explain yourself.
So, obviously, last year, Davante Adams, the goal line wide receiver, he ends the year with 14 touchdowns despite missing weeks 16 through 18 with the hamstring injury. Basically, it was the best season inside the 5-yard ever for a wide receiver. 27 end zone targets. Yes, he is old, but we always have our Hall of Fame outliers. Davante Adams is a first ballot Hall of Fame type of wide receiver to me. Jason always
Like
okay.
Mike,
I don't.
Mike
I don't.
Evans.
Yeah, he'll be a Hall of Famer,
he'll
but
probably
not
be
first
second
ballot.
ballot because of how difficult it is for. But okay, let me change the phrasing. Davante Adams is guaranteed to end up in the Hall of Fame. Can you agree with that, Jason?
I think that is probable. Yeah, he's got a championship, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He got one with the Packers, right? Packer boy, or was that too
Or
soon?
was that before?
Was that
No, I don't
before he
actually. I
showed
don't
up?
think he has one. I don't think he's guaranteed. But I mean, that's
Okay.
the point you're making. Is he's an all-timer? He's great.
He's an all-timer. I think he's a guaranteed Hall of Fame type of wide receiver, and those types of guys end up being able to play longer than your average. Oh,
Yeah,
Kyle's
no
up,
titles,
no Super Bowl.
no
He was there
titles.
right before it happened or after it happened. I
Can't
guess.
even get to 1,000 yards. Go on.
And here's what I want to bring up is the touchdowns is the story of Davante Adams' season. But what we're not looking at is his catch rate for a player of his caliber just does not make sense. It does not make sense at all to me that Davante Adams, who has his career before even including last year, a 63% catch rate. That's fine. That's not crazy. That's not he's catching everything. That's not he's down catching less than half of his balls like Rome Odunze. Davante Adams was playing with the MVP of football, and yet he only caught 53% of his passes last year. Take a look at the rest of the team. Colby Park, and these are catchable targets. 68.5% of Davante Adams' targets were catchable. That's ridiculously low. Parkinson, 93%. Davis Allen, 91%. Makes sense. Tight ends.
What's Puka?
Jordan Whittington, 88%. Puka, with 163 targets, 86% of his targets were catchable. You
think Stafford was just assuming he was faster and threw the ball out ahead of him?
We are not completely on the same page until we close in on the field. The fact that you can go in inside the 5 and catch half of your targets, turning them into touchdowns, and then only 68% of your targets on the year are catchable, that seems like a number to me that will regress.
That really does sound like he's overthrowing. It sounds like he's like, should be further.
Last year, Adams was 10th in wide receivers for air yards and 8th for unrealized air yards, as in the targets are going and they're not catchable, and it's not even Adams' fault. It was just a misconnection between Davante Adams, a great wide receiver, and Matthew Stafford, last year's MVP. I just don't see a world where on this team he's not still in the mid-20s. I'm not out of control in my projection. I got him at 24% of the targets. He was 25% last year. I just have him catching more of them, which seems like an absolute no-brainer to me. That the fact that they passed on Mekhi Lemon with everything they were going to get rid of Adams. They didn't. They didn't add anybody. It's Davante Adams. It's Puka. These are going to be the main two guys, and they're going to keep running their 12 sets out there. What'll be just the two wide receivers and the consolidation of targets. And to me, there's no way this year that the connection of Matthew Stafford and Davante Adams results in Davante catching 53% of his passes again.
Well, I would pay a lot of money for breaking news right now that A.J. Brown was traded to the Rams. I would pay a lot for that.
Change my argument.
But I think the hardest part for me is those arguments all make a lot of sense to me if Davante Adams is not in the decline of his career in terms of, they'll fix what was broken. It's hard to lay at the feet of Matthew Stafford the problems last year of connecting with Davante Adams. It's easier for me to lay that at the 33-year-old Adams' feet and say the MVP of football, who won the MVP, could connect with everybody but you. Like that, to me, that there's a problem there. And I also don't like for fantasy.
And Terrence Ferguson, by the way.
And Terrence Ferguson. Okay. Well, that says a lot.
60% of Ferguson's targets were catchable.
The problem to me is, like, you get another year of injury exposure and problems for Davante Adams. You get another year of, like, hey, does he catch enough touchdowns to make up for the inefficiencies elsewhere, or does he become more efficient elsewhere? That's tough for me to try to figure out, and with the injury thing on top of it. And it's just hard to project. The older you get, the more it gets fixed.
Yeah.
That's the part that is the challenge for me, but it is also very hard to look at the roster as it stands today, the depth chart as it stands today, what you expect from Stafford from a stat sheet standpoint, and not say Adams ends up with a ton of it, because unless someone else emerges in the offense, it's really hard not to give him those counting stats.
I mean, you can yes, he is older than the Raiders years, but the Raiders years would have been him at 30 and 31, if I'm doing the math right. Those years he caught 56% and 59%. From those Raiders quarterbacks, he had a higher catch rate than he did from Matthew Stafford. And I'm not saying it's one person's fault or the other. I agree with it's probably more on Adams than it would be on Stafford. But I think they fix it. Fix it. And he doesn't have to be outrageous. Get him up to below his career average at 60%, and he will be awesome for fantasy.
This is the first environment that Davante Adams has ever had to adjust to where you are not the dude. You are not the dude at all.
Yes.
And on when I look at go-to wide receivers, when that ball is snapped, target 1, 2, and 3 is Puka, and then Adams is this. I just think adjusting to that may have been more difficult for Adams.
Could have been.
Jason has him somewhat more on the lower side.
Yeah, I mean,
you look like a man with no strong opinion here.
I think that it's very difficult to bank on a 34-year-old wide receiver. The stat you brought up earlier, 5.5% of all top 24 finishes, and that's top 24, not top 12, are for players over that age. Now, he is one of those that's hey, maybe he could go a long time. But I believe that if he does crack the top 24, it's going to be touchdowns again. It's going to be, he got double-digit touchdowns, and that could absolutely happen. I do think between the 20s, he's going to be unreliable. So probably not a very consistent. Where's he being drafted? I don't
ADP-wise.
I don't expect him to repeat what he did last year. And that's so if it gets worse than that, I think you're thinking.
I'm seeing wide receiver 19.
That's
end of the fourth.
He's still up there. I will say this. I mean, first thoughts. I mean, it just happened. Rams defense just became. I mean, you just brought it up. One of the reasons that Cleveland, they don't have to do a lot. Myles Garrett on the defensive side of the ball. Are you seeing? Do you have any initial expectations for that offense to be less productive?
No, I don't.
Because the game's in hand. And Ty Simpson's getting some token snaps.
Well, not even that. Of just their defense. The Rams' defense is always good, and you have an impact player who probably ends up with more sacks now. So a couple drives ended here, but on the season, I'm not going to look at the acquisition of Garrett and change my my offensive outlook
or your financial outlook. You're not going to change any of your investment profile. Listen, before we close it out. As we've each defended ourselves, and I think we're on edge here, very defensive. Yeah. Field Dates just tweeted this out. I just want to read it to you. Rams first round pick since 2016. You ready? In 2016, Jared Goff, who was traded for Stafford. None. 2024, Jared Verse, who was traded eventually for Myles Garrett. None in 2025, and then Ty Simpson in 2026.
So they've
sounds
had none.
like my dynasty team for the first 10 years. But they've basically had none, or they've traded the ones that they've had for established players.
Which you can win, but it feels like the creditors will catch you.
Pour one out.
They'll find you.
Everybody out there, say a little prayer for one man only. His name is Jared Verse. Jared, you were one drive away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And you're going to be watching it next year from home. Sorry, buddy. Catch you on the next episode. Enjoy the UDK, everybody.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.